Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Before the Four. I'm digital host A.J. Wuest, bringing you yet another Before the Four this fabulous Tuesday afternoon. Wherever you're watching today, whether it is on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream, of course, as always, thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your Tuesday afternoon here with me. Now, we have quite a bit to jump into today, so I believe it is about time we start things off. And starting things off in Huntsville, where a former Crestwood Medical Center higher up pled guilty to sex abuse of a child less than 12 years old yesterday. Now, David Brown, who you're seeing on screen, was the human resources director for the hospital, according to his LinkedIn account. Crestwood leaders say he left the company in the summer of 2022. Brown was arrested in July of that year, and it is still unclear whether he resigned or if he was fired. Newly obtained court records report that Brown is facing a 10-year prison sentence upon his guilty plea. But now moving over to Vina out in the Shoals, where today weather officials confirmed that an EF0 tornado touched down back on January 5th. Now, NWS officials said the tornado began along Highway 23, where it shattered a window and caused minor damage to the roof of a mobile home. The tornado then traveled northeast, heading up Hurricane Creek, and caused tree damage in its path. Major damage to a pole barn on Singleton Road was also reported in the tornado's track. Now, eventually, the storm crossed Highway 3 and Jim King Road, where it further caused tree damage. And weather officials said winds were estimated between 75 to 85 miles per hour. The storm traveled a total of 2.44 miles in the span of 4 minutes. Now, the survey was performed by Franklin County EMA and radar imagery. But now, speaking of weather, let's now turn it over to 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis for a look at what's on the radar for the next few days here across the Tennessee Valley. Brad?
AJ, we've got some quiet weather this week. It's nice. We get a break. Us meteorologists get a break too. We got a nice warm up Thursday into Friday. So here's that 3-day forecast. Really looking forward to Thursday's high of 55, then 60 Friday. And then everything changes. We've got rain coming in Friday night into Saturday morning. And that's not the only problem we've got. Some of this rain is going to be heavy at times, some elevated thunderstorms, nothing severe though. So there's some good news there. One thing we're going to watch here overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. This is a look here as this boundary kind of stalls out. We could see some mixed wintry precipitation. This should not amount to much at all, though, for early Sunday. But as we get beyond Sunday, that's when everything starts to really cool down. So enjoy the break we have in the weather right now because it could get downright ugly next week. We'll be talking more about that at 4, 5, and 6. Back to you, AJ.
Well, thank you, Brad. Now, for the first time in over a decade, obesity rates have dropped in the United States. A new study by the CDC showed that from 2021 to 2023, those rates dropped from 41.9% to 40.3%. And experts say that decrease may seem small, but it's actually a huge breakthrough in the healthcare world. The decrease has healthcare leaders feeling optimistic, especially when it comes to the success of weight loss medications. As for the cause of the decrease, experts are pointing to the use of GLP-1 medications like Ozempic. These medications have soared in popularity since the FDA first approved Wegovy for weight loss back in 2021. And as for the numbers that we're seeing here in our state, Alabama's obesity rate also dropped from 39.9% to 39.2%. And 48's Claudia Peppenhorst recently spoke with Kay Usby with the Huntsville Hospital Center for Medical Weight Loss, and she says the trend is heading in the right direction. Take a listen.
If there's a way to get that price down for patients and more people can get access to it and sustain it long term, I think, yes, we could probably see, continued decline in those numbers. However, if we can't do something to address that, then I just don't know how it's sustainable for the average person.
Some exciting news there for sure. But now an update on Toyota Field and the possible renovations soon coming in Madison. Yesterday, 48 Savannah Sapp attended a Madison work session where city leaders and residents voiced their concerns on the new ballpark upgrade. Take a listen.
You're using money from our roads, our lights, our traffic signals, maintenance.
It was about money in Madison City Monday night. The City Council's work session discussed spending tens of millions of dollars to meet Major League Baseball mandates. City Council President John Seifert says he bet on Trash Panda Stadium the first time, and he wants to back it up and make it bigger. He breaks down the cost in millions.
The total bond will be about 25. I think the rough estimate is somewhere around 18. It's about 7 for the first floor.
The investment would meet MLB standards, building a clubhouse in left field, but the plan calls for 3 more stories added to generate funding for extra box seating. For Councilmember Karen Denzine, the numbers aren't adding up for her and her constituents.
Because we have people now who are having a hard time making ends meet. Right? How can I justify spending this much more money when they have a hard time going to the grocery store? Right? Because it's their tax dollars.
Now, the board is still discussing this idea, but resident Margie Daly says it's the people of Madison who will lose.
It's only about 10% of the families that can actually afford to go to the stadium, maybe once a year. So you guys are doing this for the elite sector, for these private boxes. I mean, you are raping the tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And staying in Madison, local nonprofit Kids to Love is in the process of constructing a new mental health wellness building. The expansion is aimed at making sure foster children who have experienced abuse or neglect get the help they deserve. Foster children will be able to process and come to terms with their trauma inside the new building. And 48 Sarah Grace Kennedy spoke with Kids to Love founder Lee Marshall, who says foster children experience multiple forms of trauma at a young age. They may experience some abuse or neglect before they are placed in foster care, and it can also be traumatic for a child to be removed from their family and placed with a stranger. That's why Kids to Love leaders are working on creating the new space.
You know, kids that go into foster care or have been through adoption or go through a myriad of different things. Sometimes it's specifically like abuse or neglect kind of traumatic events, but also just removal from a home is a traumatic event in and of itself.
And now in the Shoals, yesterday we brought you a story on a Lauderdale County inmate facing more charges for allegedly producing pornography with a minor while in jail. Authorities say the inmate used a tablet provided to all Lauderdale County inmates and with it asked a 16-year-old girl to send him nude photos. 48's Aria Pons with all the latest details.
Jamarius Vaughn, an inmate with the Lauderdale County Detention Center, is now facing several charges, including producing pornography with a minor. The sheriff's office says that Vaughn used a tablet that is issued to every single inmate at the Lauderdale County Detention Center in order to make video calls with 2 different minors. Since then, Vaughn has had all of his privileges revoked, meaning he will no longer be able to put his hands on a tablet. These tablets are given to each inmate when they come into the detention center because there are no longer face-to-face visitations. So inmates now pay to either call or video call using the tablets. The tablets are also used to buy different objects, to buy movies, or even to play games. The tablets can only be used from 7 in the morning to 10 p.m. at night when they automatically shut off. Court filings show that during a video call on January 7th of this year, Vaughn directed a 16-year-old girl to perform sexual acts on herself. The new charges are separate from the electronic solicitation of a child charges previously filed involving the use of a tablet. Those charges stem from Vaughn asking a 14-year-old girl online to take off her clothes for him in August. Vaughn was already in jail from a previous robbery charge. Florence detectives say they located the evidence during a routine review of jail calls. Vaughn is still residing at the Lauderdale County Detention Center with a bond of $245,000. Reporting in the Shoals, Aria Pons, 48 on your side.
Well, thank you, Aria. Now coming up after the break, we'll talk about the latest on the house fire that broke out last week in Monrovia. An Arab soldier killed during the Korean War finally laid to rest. And what's up with the price of eggs nowadays? It's all ahead. I'll see you all in 1 minute. Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Before the Four. Now in Monrovia, authorities are still investigating a house fire that broke out on Forest Brook Drive last week, leaving 3 dead. 48's Callie Neese with a look at what officials know at this point.
These flowers have been left in memorial of 3 who were found dead after a house fire last week. Early Tuesday morning, firefighters arrived on the scene of the fire here on Forest Brook Drive. The Madison County coroner, Tyler Berryhill, confirmed 3 are dead after the fire. He said he believes all 3 are family members. Investigators with the state fire marshal's office say their identification is being withheld until a positive ID has been made. But I can tell you the family of the 3 who lived here stopped at the house earlier today. They told me they did not want to talk on camera just yet, but they would be in contact with me. Jennifer Bowden from the Alabama Fire Marshal's office said the investigation into the cause of the fire and deaths is ongoing, and they are not able to say anything about a preliminary cause on the fire. I've also reached out to sheriff's investigators, but they could only tell me the fire investigation is ongoing, and at this time they are only there in support. 48 News will continue to press for more answers to find out exactly what happened here last week. Reporting in Madison County, Callie Neese, 48 News, on your side.
Good to know. Thank you, Callie. And after 75 years, the family of an Arab soldier killed in the Korean War were able to lay their hero to rest. Now, yesterday morning, Army Corporal Wayman Slayton was given the burial he deserves at Gilliam Springs Baptist Church. In September of 1950, the 18-year-old soldier was reported missing in action in South Korea. His unit was in a fierce firefight and his body could not be recovered. Now in 2021, remains from the battle were sent for DNA analysis and positively identifying the soldier. Slayton's cousin, Rhonda Tidmore, says she's glad people came to remember her cousin. And take a listen to what she had to say.
Just that there could be closure now. After looking through the details of everything that happened on that day, I thought, well, the family is going to finally get some closure after all this time. Right. From the county, there's like, I think 4 more. There's one from Arab particularly, Robert Henry Prentice. He is MIA as well. I believe he's missing in North Korea though. So, John Cheryl Higgins Jr. is from Gunnersville, and I'm thinking he might be the next one because he was in the general area that Wayman was discovered, that his remains were recovered. I didn't think it was going to affect me that much when he was first brought into the facility, the funeral home, but there was some moist eyes, I must say. not only from myself, but the others that were there. And now to see everybody turn out here, it's just great. They acknowledge his sacrifice, and that means a lot to me. I'm a veteran myself, and when I see that, I go, people still do care, and they still want to know more.
Well, now let's talk about the cost of eggs at your grocery store. Prices have shot up more than 60% over the last year. And as the latest bird flu outbreak continues, that price spike now taking a toll on restaurants and consumers as well everywhere. Darren Botello tells us right now there's no end in sight for these egg price increases. So restaurant owners and their customers are trying to adjust to this new normal. Take a look.
Price of eggs have basically doubled in the last month or so.
An outbreak of bird flu sending the prices of eggs soaring. For restaurant owners here in Massachusetts, some now paying $100 for a case of 30 dozen eggs versus an average of $50 a case.
You're really at the mercy of whoever's controlling these commodity markets, and it's difficult because we can't just reprint our menus every day. We have to kind of absorb the cost.
Just in December, the USDA reported over 18 million birds were affected by avian flu, with the typical cost of a dozen eggs nationwide jumping over 60% the last year.
I always want to do the right thing, but I've never had somebody say, hey, don't order an omelet, anything like that. So I feel like they're fair.
The latest numbers from the agency showing that large white egg prices by the dozen delivered to warehouses are ranging from about $6.03 to $6.17 here in the Northeast.
75% of our menu is egg-based in some way, either eggs itself or in the recipe. So, it's a big concern for a restaurant like us.
Restaurants like this one in Waltham now eating the cost of the egg increase for now, not raising prices on customers.
We're just a little bit more careful and maybe steer people away from having eggs. We tell our employees they're not allowed to have any egg-based meals because we give away free employee meals to people.
Well, thank you. Now in national politics, Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth is on Capitol Hill today, kicking off confirmation hearings for President-elect Trump's incoming cabinet. He pitched himself as a change agent to lead the department, facing Democrats who questioned the nominee on his sexual misconduct allegations, drinking, and past comments on women in the military. NBC's Alice Barr has more from Washington.
From handshakes to hostilities.
What are you afraid of? You can't answer this question.
Pete Hegseth, President-elect Trump's choice for Secretary of Defense, facing tough questions in a confirmation hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee.
My only special interest is the warfighter.
The decorated combat veteran and former Fox News host defending his credentials to lead the massive and complex Department of Defense.
That it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent.
Democrats tore into Hegseth over his experience.
We have someone who has never managed an organization more than 100 people is going to come in and manage this incredibly important organization.
And allegations of financial mismanagement at past veterans groups.
By the time you left, that organization had deep debts.
Every dollar we raised was used intentionally.
Hegseth also faced a grilling over past comments that women should not serve in combat roles.
What do you have to say to the almost 400,000 women who are serving today about your position on whether they should be capable to rise through the highest ranks of our military?
I would say I would be honored to have the opportunity to serve alongside you.
Hegseth argued it's about holding everyone to equal physical standards.
The standards need to be the same and they need to be high.
And he forcefully denied accusations of past alcohol abuse and a 2017 sexual assault allegation that he says was consensual. He was investigated but never charged.
Completely false charges against me.
While acknowledging he's not perfect, Hegseth promised to boost recruitment and morale and stand with the nation's war fighters. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, thank you, Alice. Now, a strong family tradition of Cajun music started nearly 60 years ago in Wuest, Louisiana. That's when Mark Savoy began hosting weekly jam sessions. And today, that tradition is stronger than ever. Dave McNamara is in the heart of Louisiana with more. Take a look.
The Saturday morning music begins with the strong voice of Sarah Savoy, leading a group of Cajun music enthusiasts who play fiddle and guitar. Her father, Mark Savoy, plays accordion. He started this jam session in 1966 at his Wuest, Louisiana music store.
Ever since the first time I heard the music being played by a human being, that really what hooked me.
And Savoy's family, including his wife Ann and two sons, Wilson and Joel, join in. Every Saturday begins with boxes of boudin sausage and a pot of coffee.
The coffee's got to be high octane too. Get the real stuff.
There are regulars who are here nearly every Saturday, like John Vadrine from Mamu.
Just traditional old-time Cajun music, and this is what I love. And so this is a gathering of people that love the same thing that I do.
Musician Simon Martinson, who is sitting in the front row strumming his guitar, is from Sweden.
I studied music for a long time, so it's fun to sort of analyze and learn. So I'm just here to learn and get a feel for it.
Before long, there are 36 musicians playing along in the open jam session, where players outnumber the spectators.
The reason that Cajun music was embraced by so many people all over the world is because it doesn't sound like modern music. It doesn't sound like country western. You have to play upon its strength.
And Mark Savoy has provided many musicians with an accordion to play on. His handcrafted instruments are among the best Cajun accordions. And just as he has passed on his love of music to his children, his son Joel has joined him in the shop.
I got to just straighten these out and make sure they're sitting right.
You've been working with Joel here in the shop now for about 10 years. As someone who loves the traditions of the music, making the accordions, you got to feel pretty good about that.
I do. But, we've been working on these guys for a long time. The kids, they all speak French fluently. They all play the music, and they all know what traditional music is.
Mark's view of traditional Cajun music is that new songs should be played in the old style. Son Joel wants Cajun music to evolve.
Writing stuff that's relevant to today in Cajun French. And to me, that's what it's going to take for this culture and this music to move forward.
When you were a little guy growing up, did you see yourself becoming the next accordion maker?
Not really. It took me a long time to figure it out.
I'm confident that the day comes when I won't show up anymore. It'll be in good hands.
From carefully crafted accordions to nearly 60 years of music, the Savoy family is part of the future of a rich Cajun tradition. With the heart of Louisiana, Dave McNamara, Fox 8 Local First.
Such an awesome story there, and that is a story I would describe as one of those stories that you're just not going to want to miss. And speaking of the stories you're just not going to want to miss, let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscast. The Albertville Aggie Band getting ready to head up to our nation's capital to perform at the presidential inauguration. Get the latest on that awesome story coming up. Another story you're just not going to want to miss, Athens city leaders looking for a new space to place a cemetery as all the other ones are filling up with the growth of the city. And finally, a Shoals murder suspect seeking immunity. Get that from 48's Aria Pons, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And it is that time. What time is it? It is, of course, time for Facebook fun. And our 48 Facebook question of the day, name something that you didn't know was expensive until you became an adult. And just about everything for me, I had a rude awakening once I reached adulthood, because then I was buying everything from my apartment, toilet rolls, toilet paper, of course, and just all the cleaning utensils that I need. And I did not realize all that stuff was as expensive as it is. But what I want to know is what you all had to say. What is something that you didn't know was expensive until you became an adult? Let's see. Margaret said, the electric bill. Now that I understand why my dad would yell at us to stop air conditioning the outdoors. 100%. Awesome comment. Margaret, thank you so much for commenting. Let's see. Emily said, what's not expensive? Seriously, things younger teens, adults don't realize is food, and down to everyday basics, paper towels, TP, Ziplocs. All the list can go on, things that are growing up, or things that when you're growing up you do not think about. Very true. Emily, thank you for commenting. Kendra said, gas. I thought you just filled up your tank for what was on the sign. If only. That would be incredible, Kendra. Me and you both. That's what I thought as well. I'm like, oh, gas is only like $3.59 right now. It's super cheap. What are you talking about? Kendra, thank you so much for commenting. Jimmy said Reader's Digest subscriptions and Michael Bolton's entire vinyl catalog. That's another thing. Vinyl, I did not realize how expensive vinyl was until I got a record player for Christmas, and now I'm out here at record shops buying vinyl, and they're like 30, 40 bucks a pop, and I'm like, wow, well, that's expensive. Jimmy, thank you so much for commenting. And then Karen said, staying alive. Good grief, it is expensive to be alive. And is that not true? Karen, thank you so much for commenting. And with that comment, I think that is just about all she wrote for today's Before the Four. But as always, I want to thank you all for watching and spending just a bit of your Tuesday afternoon here. If you haven't already done so, make sure you download the 48 Digital app, the 48 First Alert Weather app, and the 48 Sport Zone app. Turn on those push notifications and you will never miss a breaking news story. But as always, thank you all so much for watching, and you all have a great night.